So if you think of that reality of the impact of the generational trauma, intergenerational trauma that we've been through, I think it would be fair to say that genetically, because of the oppressions and the maims and the long stemming generation of abuses, that we genetically form certain DNAs, even though we have a special DNA in our genetic makeup. However, I think that these group suicides are quite serious, and how the impacts can make great effects on families and communities and our nation. So I think that there should be studies implemented of eugenics and suicide, because I think that we need to really understand why suicide in groups and anonymity that have such a profound effect in our in our structures as a mechanical society, because we're not an egalitarian society as one more. Just in the recent past, we ran everything by circles. Now everything is bipartisan politics and the voting system. So everything plays a part in that, and also in the eugenics and the suicide with our youth. I think that's huge. And I think that we should be more aware as to what our children are telling us, especially with the school systems and the teaching methods about academics and how they're learned, because I think that the children that are being born actually can teach adults and teach people how to sustain themselves with comfortability and presence and being truthful and honest, where a lot of adults lack that in their way of life and their way of being, because children don't necessarily consume or want to consume unless they've been hungry in the last lifetime that they lived. There's a lot of education to be given about eugenics and maims and oppression, and I think that we should open our dialogue as grandparents, as parents, as moms and dads, and community members, because when one person takes their life, that affects us all, because we're neighboring communities and we're neighbors, and we should care about what goes on in our greater communities. When I look at the pact, I know first and foremost how trauma can affect the human psyche and the human spirit, the human body, and the human mind. It's been a very hard walk for me, and it hasn't been easy at all by any means, because of the drama. And I'm sure that any person that has been through it can relate. And I think we have to open the dialogue about, healing, and about healing these traumas, especially with the children, because nobody's listening to them, and they need to be heard, and they need to be acknowledged that, what, they're not alone. And they need to be known that what they're going through is real, and it's not something that they're just making up in their minds. Or so that's a subject I wanted to open up, because I think that we are misunderstanding the concept of eugenics and suicide, and it just doesn't belong to FASD and the other traumas that we talk about. I think that the impacts of the intergenerational trauma, just example, the 60s scoop right now, and all of these things that are against First Nations people, I think that there should be made alliances built right across North America for First Nations people, and anybody that's educated, that has an understanding of different various groups, and the psyche and the psychological impacts should be involved, and should automatically be hired to help people that are stuck and people that are, have the communities that have a harder time embracing this, because it's a big impact. We all feel that this doesn't belong to the community or the person or the family that is inflicted by suicide. It belongs to us all. So it's something to think about, and to open that dialogue. And I really thank you all for listening, and have a good day.